All right, and welcome everybody to another smAshlight segment. I've decided to do a segment completely separate from the daily space weather videos, not integrated at all. And if you don't look at the daily space weather videos, perhaps check those out. Sometimes these smAshlight segments are integrated, sometimes they're not. Check the playlists for details about what's where. And there's a distinct reason that we're talking about smAshlights, and it all has to do with stuff like big tech. So I don't know if you were aware or not, but it's making me very angry to note that people are not aware of the fact that Google is a scam and not a verb. Now, why is it that I say that? Well, it's because people seem to think that they're obtaining objective search results from the Google junkware engine, and since that's completely untrue, we would invite you to understand reality. So when it comes to doing internet searches, we would implore you here at the Smash News Network to kindly stop using Google as a verb. Unless, of course, it means to obtain biased search results. Now, what are we talking about here? Well, maybe you weren't aware, but big tech has certain political bias. And if you haven't noticed this, maybe it's because you don't have a Facebook account. But has big tech been causing you to want to binge drink because the content sucks so hard? Well, let's talk about big tech and the way they contribute to political pancanes. Political pancanes. Big tech, is it trying to bribe Biden to push Trump's antitrust measures? So what's going on with that? Is big tech interfering in an election in the U.S.? No, come on. How could it possibly be? Now, of course, if you're familiar with our channel, we've been a bit critical of Google in the past. Why? Well, because I noticed in 2012 that Google does not function as a search engine. It functions as both a propaganda machine and as an advertising vessel. So, and if your search history is being saved, then it's also acting as a marketing scheme to obtain your clicking, shopping, browsing behavior and selling that to organizations like retailers in places like India and China, because India and China would like nothing more than to make their economy as good as a U.S. economy. So that's sort of what's going on, like in a nutshell, I guess you could say. But this has prompted us to create an entire web forum about this. So if you've never headed to smashomash.com/forum, you can link to it from smashomash.org. And it's, there you go. Click on the forum, smAsho forum. And then you don't even have to log in. See, I'm not logged in right now. You don't even have to log in to be able to view this stuff. Just click on the free-for-all forum. By the way, the whole thing's free. You just must create a login in order to create content to put up posts. Check this out. We've got a 3-page article about how Google is a scam and not a verb. Now, Google is clearly misleading its shareholders, and that's one of the issues that we have with Google. Since most people that I know would prefer to have objective search results, and so their exposure to liability here is massive. And we've been calling for Google to change its behavior for the last 4 years, and it just doesn't do so. It just hires more and more and more attorneys. And it pays people for fraud at the same time as reducing everybody's security, reducing everybody's data integrity, causing a whole bunch of wasted keystrokes probably in the billions of hours per day, as there are like 4 billion Android devices alone. And so while it's a great thing that people in third world nations can spend $50 and buy a smartphone that has 1 billion times the computing power of a $2,000 computer in the 1980s, let's just say there are issues with not only the OS, but the owner of the OS. Now, the Android OS is based on an open source operating system, but the code in Google's software simply is not open source. And so folks aren't understanding that the content that they're receiving, they're not understanding the ephemeral effects of Google. And so this is just an issue that we've had for ages. Anyway, we decided to make a little live stream about this just to advertise this portion of our forum because, well, you may have realized that not exactly a fan. And it makes me very angry when they attempt to solidify corporatocracies, right? So one of the problems is that when Google attempts to affect elections, they're going to back up the dominant party, or whoever Google perceives as the dominant party. And so you could imagine how this would run into issues with people who are highly skilled at computing. So some of us in a certain age range especially, and I think it's people who were born between 1970 and 1980 especially, are in this meaty part of understanding computers. And so it's impossible for these software manufacturers, who are more like a legal referral service now because all they're doing is trying to deflect all their own liability. And they've created trillions of dollars of liability, by the way, with their productivity software. So in any case, I'll stop ranting about Google now. But yeah, so Google is a scam, not a verb. And we've got, well, first of all, we've got Tony Heller banned. So Tony Heller can no longer post videos on Google. Let's check him out on BitChute. And we'll try and get Tony Heller to do an interview soon, perhaps a bike ride as well. So yeah, Tony Heller's been banned from YouTube.
Tony Heller's been banned from YouTube.
Just another indication that Google is a scam and not a verb. And it's got to do, it's all tied together, folks. It's no matter how scary and spooky it gets, it's all tied together. Google would like you to think that it's that baited Jada, okay? And look, it's probably made in nature for the most part, because taking little bits of this nature and little bits of this nature and copy pasting them together, that's still really complicated proteins that aren't essentially man-made. So no matter how man-made it gets, the proteins aren't really man-made. Anyway, the point is, not scary and not spooky. And Trump is probably sitting in the catacombs right now. Personally, I would make sure that my quarantine location was completely unknown. And if I were Trump, I'd have 4 fake Trumps, a la Saddam Hussein. Not to suggest that they're similar. But so in any case, yeah, so COVID, very scary, very spooky, OMG. They'll probably experience 0 symptoms. And by the way, folks, there's no impetus for you to be a test subject. There's no reason for you to be tested. There's no reason to have your testes testily tested unless you have symptoms. Really, I mean, you'll be required to be tested because you came in contact with somebody who got tested. So if they arbitrarily get tested for no reason and they come up positive, now you may find yourself quarantined. And by the way, this means Trump will miss a second debate. If you weren't aware, it's a thing. Now we've got a whole section on the forum about coronavirus. We've created a timeline going all the way back to January 23rd. And let's just see what I was saying on... Was I saying Tom Wolfe is a COVIDiot back on May 2nd? Apparently not. Oh, what's this? The U.S. Supreme Court tells Governor Wolfe to defend business closure orders, which, by the way, he's failed doing. And nowadays, you don't actually... Nowadays, the mask mandates and lockdown mandates and restaurant partial reopenings and all the insanity that's been proposed by Pennsylvania Physician General Dr. Rachel Levine, former NCAA linebacker, who couldn't tackle me back then, today, or tackle Pennsylvania's health problems. Anyway, she's been calling the shots. Should I say she? I don't know. I'm not sure what the term should be. I'm not big on pronouns. I'll just say Dr. Levine. So Dr. Levine has failed hard, like Governor Wolf. And again, at smAshomash.com/forum, you can read a timeline going all the way back to January 23rd. Now, of course, we stopped updating it in mid-July because that's when I deemed it to be statistically irrelevant. Anyway, my file was not found. It may have been moved or deleted. And when I say file, I mean a certain specific file. And I'll get into that in a minute. But first, I'd like to thank our patrons, the main source of funding for the Smash News Network. Please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/smAshomash. And here's a credit crawl just updated a few minutes ago. So yes, thanks again, everybody. Thanks for whatever spot you are on the list. Folks are listed in order of lifetime contribution, and we only list active patrons. So thanks everybody that increased, decreased, or did whatever to your contributions. We greatly appreciate that here at the Smash News Network. You're the true source of funding for the content for obvious reasons. We often do a cosmology segment within the smAshlights. Today we're not going to be doing any of that because we want to shorten this up a little bit so we can get to the daily space weather, and whether or not anything exciting is happening there is up to you to find out by watching the video. It'll be coming out in a bit. So thanks for tuning in to another episode of the smAshlights, part of the Smash News Network. And look for more content coming out, like Scrying with Smash. Check out our playlists and so on. You may find that our forecasts have been coming true more often than not. And I think it's about time for me to vanish. See you next time on the smAshlights.